Dear friends in Jesus Christ, I wish a grace-filled evening to you all. Today we are at the third reflection on the Pastoral Letter 2020. Just for a recap, we all know that we are reflecting on the third part of the Pastoral Letter that speaks and suggests concrete ways of effective witnessing to Christ in our contemporary times. Today, we will try to reflect on the third point that reads as follows: by reinvigorating or revitalizing the indifferent. Some of our fellow Christian brothers and sisters do not fulfill the precepts of our faith. Some remain far away from the church, and some others are found joining groups working against the Catholic faith. It is the responsibility and concern of every member of the church to strengthen the faith of such brothers and sisters. It is mainly the example of our lively faith that can rekindle in these brothers and sisters of ours the interest they have lost in it, leading them to get rid of their apathy. In this point, our Archbishop identifies at least three categories of Christians who need our attention. It poses a great challenge for us to give concrete response to bring these categories of people back to Catholic faith. The following categories of people are mentioned. First, some of our fellow Christian brothers and sisters who do not fulfill the precepts of our faith. Second, some of our fellow Christian brothers and sisters who remain far away from the church. Third, some others are found joining groups working against the Catholic faith. To give a concrete response to the challenges, the Archbishop stipulates our responsibility in the following points. First, we are called to strengthen the faith of such brothers and sisters. Second, we have to amplify it through the example of our lively faith that can rekindle in these brothers and sisters of ours the interest they have lost in it. Third, we have to lead them to get rid of their apathy. We have three challenges before us and three responses to these challenges. Let us see each challenge and our concrete response to that challenge. Even before looking at each challenge and to the response, one thing should be very clear here. That is, we are not going to reflect on the reasons why people are going away from the church or are against the church. We have limited space and time to deal with the reasons here. Otherwise, it will be like opening a Pandora's box. And so, we will be focusing more on our response as followers of Christ. That how we could be witnesses of Jesus in reaching out to everyone and winning them over to God. Our first challenge is some of our fellow Christian brothers and sisters who do not fulfill the precepts of our faith. That is, among us, there are some Christians, our own brothers and sisters, who have become lethargic, lukewarm, so to say, outstanding Christians. They do not care for the faith and moral precepts. As prophet Hosea writes about Israel, I quote, "Though I wrote for him 10,000 precepts of my law, they are regarded as strange thing." Hosea 8:12. Some of our Christian brothers and sisters are not far from the people of Israel. Regarding believers who are lukewarm, the book of Revelation reminds us in the following words, I quote, "So because you are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I am going to vomit you out of my mouth." Revelation 3:16. These biblical messages are for all of us, and if we wish to take them seriously, then our response to this challenge must be urgent and important. I would like to place before you few points as response to this challenge. First, before reaching out to others, let us do an inward reflection, going within ourselves and asking us the question, do I and my family live our faith the way God wishes us to live, placing His will and laws first in our lives? Second, we have to involve them and give them active role in the life and mission of the church to strengthen their faith. Third, we need to reach out to them with an attitude of fraternal correction. It is our spiritual responsibility. We are our brothers and sisters' keepers. When God asks us, "Where is your brother? Where is your sister?" we cannot answer like Cain, saying, "Am I my brother's keeper? Am I my sister's keeper?" We have to show concern about the spiritual well-being of those who are not fulfilling the precepts of their faith, or, so to say, they have become dead Christians or practical atheists. This we could do by having a cordial dialogue, listening to them, by correcting their erroneous understanding of faith. They need our constant attention and guidance. Our second challenge. Some of our fellow Christian brothers and sisters who remain far away from the church. These are our brothers and sisters who do not come to the church at all. In a way, they are lost to the church and us. In fact, the church cannot afford them to be lost, because the very mission of the church is to seek the lost. As Jesus says, I quote, "For the Son of Man came to seek and to save that which was lost." Luke 19:10. Our challenge is to seek them and bring them back to the church. Therefore, what could be our response? What is our attitude towards them? The following measures as a response to the challenge could be taken. First, let us seek the ones who are gone far away from the church. For this, pastoral visits from priests, community leaders, or even from neighbors are important. Without pastoral visits, our mission to seek, to find, will not be materialized. As we see Jesus going in search of the lost, we have so many examples in the Bible. Zacchaeus, Matthew, Samaritan woman, lost coin, lost sheep, We need to have, so to say, smell of the lost, those who are far away from the mother church. When a son or a daughter is gone far away or is lost, the mother church cannot but go out in the streets to seek and to find the lost children. Second, once we identify them, there should not be an attitude of condemnation, but one of love, care, concern, and most importantly, a joyful and welcoming attitude. In the parable of the prodigal son, when the lost son comes home, there is joy and celebration in the house hosted by the father. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. Luke chapter 15, verse 24 and following. As Pope Francis says, I quote, "Let the church always be a place of mercy and hope, where everyone is welcomed, loved and forgiven." Third, the pastoral care of the lost and found should be constant and continuous. So frequent pastoral visits are necessary. Once they come to the church, we cannot just leave them by their own, but they need our attention, love and care more than the 99 who are already in the fold. Third, our third important and urgent challenge is some others are found joining groups working against the Catholic faith. These groups are mushrooming at a very fast pace. It's a critical challenge. We need to plunge into it carefully and cautiously, because we cannot lose our brothers and sisters forever. We have to win them over to God and the church. Jesus too had lot of opposition, but he never took them as his enemies, although many considered him as a threat and enemy. Threat for their power, authority and political gains. Contrary, Jesus dialogues and listens them. He tries to befriend them. Purpose of Jesus is to win them for the kingdom. Paul got transformed when he encountered Christ. Samaritan woman who initially showed some sort of opposition to Jesus, but when she came to know that Jesus is the Savior, her encounter with Jesus transformed her totally. In the early church, opposition, dissent among apostles and disciples was resolved by fruitful dialogue and forgiveness. Dialogue is at the heart of any dissent and opposition. We cannot avoid dissent and opposition, or we cannot keep people away from us because they are dissenting or opposing. But we need to have a mechanism to resolve. I would suggest a few things as response to this challenge. First, we need to have a personal experience of Christ like Paul and many others. The personal encounter of Christ will help us not to work against the church or leave the church or leave the faith, but to be in the church and to work for the church. As Jesus says, I quote, "Anyone who is not with me is against me, and anyone who does not gather with me scatters." Matthew 12:30. Second, we need to know the scriptures and the teaching of the church and their authentic interpretation. For this, we need to attend formation courses offered by our different centers. For example, Bible courses, liturgy courses, courses for catechists, theology courses, etc. Apart from formulas and devotions, our children should be formed in strong and firm faith in our schools and catechism classes. The scriptures and the teaching of the church must be the foundation of faith formation. To large extent, this is already done, but we have to insist on it on daily basis, especially in our families. As St. Paul writes about his own experience of knowing Christ, I quote, "More than that, I count all things to be loss in view of the surpassing value of knowing Christ Jesus my Lord, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things, and count them but rubbish, so that I may gain Christ." Philippians 3:8. Third, we need to have dialogue with the dissenting parties. We need to listen to their grievances, opinions, suggestions. We should not treat them as threat or as outsiders or outcasts. They are very much our own. Therefore, we should have a redressing committee to initiate the dialogue with the dissenting groups. Fourth, we need to be humble in accepting our mistakes. Church is human and can make mistakes. There is nothing wrong in accepting mistakes. It raises our credibility and leads us to holiness. As I am concluding this reflection, many things which I have suggested may not be possible at the moment due to COVID-19 situation, but they will help us for a deeper personal reflection and will be helpful in a long run to become effective witnesses of Christ. However, we could initiate to put into practice some of the responses to our challenges. In the first place, for example, faith formation at home by family Bible reading, making use of daily flesh, and reflection sent by different centers like Biblical Center, Liturgical Center, Youth Center, etc. Reading spiritual literature. We could start catechesis at home with the various means already available and provided by Catechetical Center, electronic as well as print material. Our Center for Social Communications Media too uploads some videos that can enrich our faith. Our Biblical Center is preparing some short videos and they will be shortly uploaded on official social media of the center. They too will help us to strengthen our faith. Secondly, we could reach out to people through phone call, messages and social media, giving positive vibes, telling one another that we care. I will end my reflection with a quote from Pope Francis. He says, I quote, "We should not simply remain in our own secure world, that of the 99 sheep who never strayed from the fold, but we should go out with Christ in search of the one lost sheep, however far it may have wandered." Thank you and God bless you.